Hi, Ronnie. You started the Human Library 21 years ago, and I want to understand better. You lend people, not books. People borrow people, right? How does it work? How does this thing work for everyone involved in your project, the reader and the book in itself?
That's exactly right. Part of what you said. We've replaced books with people who have volunteered to say, "Hey, I have a personal lived experience. I can be an open book, and then you can ask me any question about my topic." So you know the saying, "There is a good book in every person." With some people, it's actually true because they have an experience which we often cannot have access to in our normal network. So, for example, talking to someone in a wheelchair, or someone with a different ethnic background or religious background, or someone with a different gender identity, or let's say you have a friend who had an eating disorder problem and you needed to talk to someone who knows about eating disorders, who can give you some advice how to help your friend. Or you have a friend who tell you, "Hey, I'm transgender, I'm going to transition," and you really want to know more about it, but your friend is also new. So you perhaps is you can go to this library, borrow a person who knows about it from their own life, and who volunteered to say, "I will answer questions even if you don't know the right word. I will help you and give you my experience." It's not like there is a universal truth, but there is, "My name is Ronnie and this is my experience, and if you can use it for something, then please go ahead. That's why I'm here."
You already gave us some examples, but do you have like big topics, like certain topics, like in a library, of course?
Of course, like a library, we have a literature. We have our list of books that we publish. We have a catalog, you could say. So every time you join us, there will be a different list of topics available. We operate with about 14 different pillars of prejudice. So, for example, if your topic relates to your social background, let's say you were homeless, or let's say you were unemployed, or let's say you had a refugee background. You were living in Romania, but you really were not from Romania. You were from a country where there was a war and you had to run away to not get killed. So you have a background which carries a social stigma because people think things about refugees. They think things about people who are homeless. Probably maybe it's someone who is having a drinking problem. Maybe he lost his job first, then he became homeless, then he started drinking. Or maybe he was, you don't know, but you don't go and ask because you don't want to offend anyone. You don't want to uh, also break the social norm because most of us also don't want to be impolite, but instead we're actually more impolite by just putting people in boxes and not giving them a chance to show us who they really are so we can better understand why you're unemployed or what it's like to really be a refugee, and not just rely on what we hear from the news or see on the internet, but talk to someone who actually knows what it's about. So it's a courageous exercise for both parties, for our books and for the readers, we call them. So when you borrow our book, you have 30 minutes to ask them any question. And we have also a pillar about occupation, for example, where you could borrow a police officer or a politician or a journalist. You could borrow people or a former sex worker, perhaps. You can borrow people who have a job where there is a stigma and a prejudice and maybe even a taboo, which we can help challenge so that you can perhaps replace what you think you know with more information or expand your knowledge even better. Explore diversity and expand your knowledge. Find out what more is behind the cover, because all of us tend to judge people, quickly on what we think we see and what we think we know. We very rarely have time to stop and get to know everybody. And maybe this is an opportunity for a safe learning space where you will only be judged by technology, because right now we're mostly online. So you join us on Zoom and you borrow our books and you go into little reading rooms. But unless the connection fails, you can spend that half an hour asking any question. Uh,
Can you tell us which are the most interesting or most requested titles into your library, if you recall some of them?
When we started this library 20 years ago, we tried to build a list, or more than 20 years ago, we tried to build a list of all the groups we could think of. Since then, obviously, things have grown and they've also been adapted. So for each country, you can have different groups that are in request, you could say, or high demand. But it's my impression that overall, the interest is high for having access to someone who volunteered to say, I will be an open book. I will not judge you. I will not call you stupid or get angry with you because you ask me a question or you ask me the question in a way which isn't politically, sensitive because you don't know how to ask or which words to use. As long as you're being respectful and sincere, then this person will not take offense. So I think from country to country, you will see that in Denmark, at some point, Muslims and refugees and trans is very popular or like often in demand, but still bipolar and autistic and police officer and disabled and many others will also be in demand. So you can't really say that there are some groups that are, and it's also different from country to country. But what we all have in common, whether you're from Romania, from Denmark, from Bangladesh, or from New Zealand, we all have in common that we navigate diversity using our survival instinct. So when you and me, we could walk down the street, Christy, what we see, our brain will tell us something about what we see. Okay, I see some fans of the football here. I see some policemen there. I see fans throwing things. I see policemen getting angry. I move out of the way, Your brain will tell you to get away from danger. Your brain will tell now, even in this time with this pandemic, just a coughing like me because I have a dry and I need to drink something. Grab a big, quick chocolate milk. But even if we hear a coughing on the bus or in the street, after this whole pandemic and it's not over, because of this pandemic, our brains are even sensitive to this kind of sound because it relates us to potential danger. So it's a survival instinct. I want to get home safe to my family. I want to see everybody that I love again, and I'm going to navigate to safety. And part of my safety measure is putting people in little boxes. The first box is a box about whether you're dangerous or not dangerous. Okay? Now, some people look dangerous. Some people behave in a way where your brain will tell you there is a risk. I'm going to go on the other side of the street. And some people don't like big dogs. And if you're walking with your dog and you have a big dog, other people can be afraid of you because of the dog. And it's not because they think your dog is going to hurt them, but they're afraid the dog might hurt them. So just to be safe, they're going to go to the other side of the street. But maybe you also have some tattoos here. And maybe you think it's because of the tattoos they're going on the other side of the street. Because maybe this is a dangerous man with a dangerous dog. Or we all navigate differently. And I think we have to take responsibility for the fact that we judge and not be ashamed and say, okay, let's also have the courage to unjudge. Like it says here, not just judge each other quickly, but also sit down and have an opportunity to get to know what is this person about, what's their story. And you're going to learn that things are so much more connected and it's so much more than what we think. And this will give you, I think, this information will give you the confidence to next time you see someone from the same group, or you meet the same person, or you realize that your neighbor is like that, then now you can sort of engage with greater confidence rather than say, okay, this group is not for me. I don't understand why they are the way they are. Also, I think we have a tendency that when we understand something, we're more keen to accept. So in the human library, we're not fighting against stereotypes or combating intolerance. We're creating a neutral space where you can go in and choose the book you want, sit down, have a talk about what you want within the topic. And when you walk out of there, think what you want to think. There is no preset agenda or PowerPoint or talking points or manuscript here. It's really in your hands, just like your real library. When you go inside, who is welcome there? Everybody. And what's the agenda? It's completely in your hands.
So people borrow people for 30 minutes. Where do they meet? They go to a certain place. You organize a series of events. It's, let's say, random kind of meetings, or very well organized schedule with a certain place and stuff like that. How does it happen?
The
The
human
reading, the
library,
session.
the human library sessions happens when there's no lockdown. It happens at public libraries. It happens at schools, colleges, universities, festivals, conferences for the workplace, for example, um, and online at Zoom events now that we host, where you can join us online. It's it's a pop up, you could say. It's not a permanent space, except in Copenhagen we have a reading garden and a library, which is open on certain hours. And in the opening hours, you can come in from the street and take a book and sit in the garden and have a reading. But in the school visits and stuff, it's a more of a program where we take a large group of students, we distribute them to many tables, and they will have a reading. And then after half an hour, the books will circulate and they will have another reading and another reading. And they can go home and tell their parents that today they read 3 books. It's not normal. Um, yeah, that was just. But I think that the opportunities are different. We also have a cafe, sort of, so you can go to a book cafe or maybe a small coffee shop, and you can one day find that there is a small human library there. So it means there is not 20 books there, but maybe 5 books and one librarian or two to help you understand the rules, get your library card, and match you with the book you want, right?
Yeah.
So, small pop ups, big reading halls, online sessions, school visits, and sometimes we go to the conference of a workplace or a labor union, for example. In Denmark, we work with a labor union called HK. And so they work with a lot of their members are employed in, for example, the dental clinics where they help the dentist serve the patients. And so they meet a lot of different people in their work. And so through us, they have a chance to speak informally with some of those many diverse background patients that they see and talk about how they can be more inclusive, more understanding, and, create just a framework where even though I'm different from you, I feel accommodated and included and understood. And this is an important thing that's universal to all of us, Christy, whether we are member of a minority group in our community or not, whether we're part of the mainstream or we're part of a specialized or a community that faces either great privilege, great stigma, great challenge, no matter which group we're part of. Show me a person that doesn't want to be understood. I don't think there are many out there. I think we all have that universal need for my neighbor, my girlfriend, my wife, my children, my colleagues, my boss, my teachers, my friends, my dog. Stop! Don't run out in the road. We all want to be understood, and we want
Are
others to
these?
understand.
Yeah. Thank you very much for all the details. I mean, it's fascinating because I imagine doing like something like this, but not reading humans, but exchanging information between let's say entrepreneurs, from different kind of areas, different sectors, the industries, and exchanging let's say experiences. Just to understand better the startup environment and all the things you need to grow your business. So this could be something else here in Romania because we want to push the startup ecosystem over here. But let's get back to your project. And I was wondering if these meetings are one-on-one or one to many people. I mean, usually, how does it happen?
It's never one to many. It's always either one to one or 1 to up to 4, I would say.
Okay.
If we are to have a conversation, we can't be too many at the same time talking. So we have to have the space to have access to the book. 1-to-1 very often happens in our garden in Copenhagen. When people come to the public events, they'll come alone or with a friend. Um, More often online, there's such a demand for our books. We don't have enough books to do one-on-one, so we have to share them, sometimes 4 or 5. Last Sunday, we had 85 readers join us on a Sunday afternoon for the Zoom from 20 different countries and 20 different states in the United States at the same time, right? So it was a tremendous global meeting of a sort, almost like the UN, but with a framed conversation topic, where we're framing that in this room today we'll talk about bipolar. And it's not only the book that will talk about it, because the readers engage and they I think they contribute very often with their experience too. So it becomes similar to what you described in the tech business. It becomes an experience exchange, a sort of transformative knowledge. I'm going to give you what I've learned, and you give me some of what you learned, and then we both come out stronger, more knowledgeable.
Yeah. How do people react after reading a book? What's their reaction? I mean,
Well, there's one thing I think everyone has in common globally, whether it's Japan or Australia or Kenya or Tunis or where we are publishing, is they're surprised of the impact. They're surprised of the intimacy, how quickly it feels like you know the book, like you've known the book for much longer than you have. We've known each other 15 minutes, but already I feel like I know you somehow, or at least I've mirrored myself in you because you made yourself open to me, so I could see parts of myself and my own life in the way you had overcome some of these challenges. There are clear parallels to how I'm trying to overcome my challenges. So maybe I wasn't expecting to come to mirror my challenges in someone who is autistic, or someone who is a police officer, or I don't know what background. Excuse me. But this is what happened. And so it's a very human experience, and it's an experience where you feel like, wait, I can relate, and I'm empowered, and I'm uplifted by the spirit of the matter, because very many of our readers don't just read one book. They read at least 2 and sometimes more. And when you have several of these conversations after each other, it's just like little joyful explosions inside you that just makes you happy. So I think it's a really good feeling, and a feeling of positive surprise. Wow, I mean, I understood, and it's but they come out, and it's like a Jedi mind trick.
do we have to pay for reading a book, a human book?
For you, my friend, a very special price. Are we talking my Swiss PayPal? What are we talking about? Euros, Deutschmarks? You still have Deutschmarks down there, I know.
Yeah,
You're
yes, I
keeping all
think
the
we have
Deutschmarks
some.
under the
Yeah,
mattress.
yes, maybe they're going to be back after Angela
That's it.
Merkel
You're hoping they're coming
resignation.
back. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
maybe. Maybe.
I mean, Christy, of course we have some cost. So let's be realistic. You can't have a library if you don't have any money, because you need money to buy books and to have librarians and to have equipment and staff and t-shirts and whatever. But you also know that the library is a place where it's free. And so we keep the service free to our readers. Meaning, if you come to us in Copenhagen, we will not charge you to borrow a book. If we come to your school, the students will not pay to take a book. If we come to your workplace, the co-workers there will not pay to take a book, but your boss will.
Yeah, it's fair. I think it's very,
Hey,
very
push it
fair.
forward. We call it push it upward. We call it in our model, not pay it forward, but push it upward. No, so obviously, even when we go to the school, some schools have very little money. So
Yeah,
it's about who you are, how you can contribute, but we do ask
contribute.
people
Yes.
to contribute. Yeah.
How has pandemic affected your project?
It's given me a terrible cough today. This pandemic is what it has. And it doesn't matter what I do, apparently. It's like I have a dry throat. I hope I hope Adrian can edit all of this out when he's done doing his magic today. How has the pandemic affected us? Well, it was completely terrible in the beginning, and I think it had a really terrible. I mean, we didn't lose lives in that sense, but that we had to cancel our global activities all around the world. All partnerships put on pause. Many of our local organizers who put a big work in getting ready to host events, and we were ready to host events. It was just it was a shock, like it was for everyone else. So I mean, no pity there. But we pulled the brake hard in March last year, and we came to a full stop. And we said to ourselves, "What are we going to do?" And we're like, "Okay, so we've got to go online." There was no much discussion about it because this wasn't 2 weeks. If it had been 2 weeks, I don't know, or maybe 2 months, I don't even know. But as soon as we saw this isn't going away, we were like, "All right, let's restructure and let's retrain and let's reorganize and let's get these new formats finalized," because we've been looking at going online for a while, but we weren't in a hurry because we were so busy on our front end with our coming out to the library and to the school and the college and all these places that we didn't really pay so much attention to the online potential, which we should have done much before, because it's been incredible. It's been incredible. It's just been amazing. And we've been reaching people all across the world with ease and low cost. And now with this organizing we have, even with less preparation and a much less climate carbon print, reducing our carbon print significantly from what we would have done if we would have come out to your place and had to bring all these people together. So in many ways, it's been, I wouldn't say a blessing in disguise, because we can't call a pandemic a blessing. That's wrong. But it's been something that forced us to develop. And this new development is not necessarily a bad thing. There's some good things about it too. So we've embraced the opportunity. And I'm happy to say that today we're stronger than we were before the lockdown.
How do you pick your titles, your next books? Do you have like a system? Do you, I don't know, have a filter? Filter the people apply. You discover, scout for people? How does it happen?
We train, edit, and prepare every book before we publish them. But we have a methodology based on our concept, which is now 2 decades. It's been refined. So we now have these 14 pillars of prejudice. You need to belong into one of those 14 pillars, or you need to blow our minds and tell us why you represent pillar number 15. It can happen. I'm open-minded. We used to have 12. So we have a distance system now than we had a couple years back. So it's a potential that you can break our mind and system, and because it's not a complete system. But we've grounded the whole thing in these 14 pillars. So let's say your topic was self-harm, or alcoholic, or parent of a bipolar child, or involuntarily childless parent, childless person. You wanted to become a parent but you couldn't, or you're anti-wax, Christy. You're not getting the wax. You don't give a Pfizer or nothing else. You ain't getting nothing. You will be facing some stigma and stereotypes, and you could help us better understand by putting yourself available. But when you do that, you fill in an application. You tell us about your experience. We're going to interview you just like a job interview. We're going to see what is your experience. I mean, more empathetic than a job interview, but we will vet and see what is your lived experience, and to assess if we believe this has value to our readers and can help qualify readers' way of engaging, not just with you, but with the group in the community that you're going to represent with the topic you told us you can talk about. So we're not going to tell you, we don't pick topics. Our volunteer books come to us and say, hey, my topic is depression. Hi, I'm James, I'm bereavement. Hi, I'm Diana, I'm transgender. And this is how it works. So we will help them define their topic and identify the boundaries of their publication and help them understand our safeguarding measures, the supervision we offer, and all that. But we also weed some people out. Let's talk about that for a second, okay? So some people will come in and they're very angry. Now, if you're a very angry person, you're not ready to be a book. Some people might come in and they're not in line with our values because they want to hate on somebody else. You understand? So if you're not here to help create an understanding and inclusion, you're here to exclude others by hate speaking on them, for example, then whether you have good reason for it or not, whether you have great motivation to do that is not important for us. What's important for us is you're here to talk about your own group, not to talk bad about other groups. The other thing is we're not an organization working to be tolerated or for groups to be tolerated. We're working for groups to be understood so they can be better accepted, because through understanding comes acceptance. Tolerance is not something that we really want to be talking about, to be honest, because that's not good enough. Acceptance is minimum. Is to that you accept my right to be me, and I accept your right to be who you are, and live your life. So that's how it works with our books. We will take you out if you're campaigning, missioning, have a chip on your shoulder, or in this way working against our values by being not accepting.
Tell me, why are you doing this, Ronni? I mean, what kept you motivated for more than 20 years?
I'm not really religious, so I can't say that it's that God told me to do this, because that's not what happened. What happened is that I saw that this library could make a positive impact in every community all around the world. And until that point, I was 27. What I saw until then was a lot of things that cost a lot of money that didn't work. I've seen us spend so many resources on things that aren't efficient and not being, working to the advantage of the community. And I saw how this simple library could help us in so many ways. It's not even visible to the eye how many ways we win by doing this exercise. And I thought, you know what? I could sell cars probably, or I could be a good journalist and do investigative reporting, but so could others. Nobody else could carry the message of this library like I could because of the position I was in, of being who I was and where I was at the time. So I thought, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to be the messenger. I'm going to have to help spread the word. It's not my library, it's the world's library. And I'm but a messenger to help people understand the opportunity that they can go and explore diversity. And during this process, they will explore themselves too and be confronted with their own unconscious bias, but not in a shaming way, not in a way to make you feel wrong, but in a way to make you understand your own humanity so you can take responsibility for who you are. Only in this way can we hope to improve as human beings. So I kept doing this because I see it works. It helps people do that. And we need that more than we need more cars or more investigative journalists. Then we need this. And when you look around, there's 800 or more, thousands of amazing storytelling platforms in the world. There's so many great tools out there to frame your story and to do this. But there aren't a lot of concepts or learning approaches to bring unity across our differences, to bring the Trump supporter and the Obama voter together. to bring the member of the NRA to sit down and talk and understand. If we don't sit down and try to find common ground, we can't develop our community together. And that means facing pandemics and climate challenges and other things is going to be very difficult because we're spending our resources focusing on the things where we disagree rather than spending our resources finding common ground and setting aims and objectives for developing our community. And that means including everyone, not like we're doing now, putting everyone in little boxes and trying to just stay with the ones that are like us.
I have one last question. I want to ask: are you a human book, Ronni?
Christy, that's not a bad question. I am. I'm not currently in circulation, as you would say, which means I'm not coming forward to publish in these years. I think I've done my publishing for this time, but I have published on several occasions. And yes, I found my own topic and I tried to really get into understanding the role of the book as best as I could, because I'm going to be one of the people for years to help explain to others what it means to be an open book and how, and what's the difference between just telling your story and being an open book. Why is this a conversation format and not just me now telling you all about how I lost my leg? And it's something you have to do to be able to teach others. I think you have to, at least as a leader, take responsibility for what you've done and make sure you know what it is before you're asking anybody else to do it. So there's no part of doing a human library that I haven't tried. From librarian to driving books to getting the lunch to serving readers at the desk, or running the evaluation or cleaning up the room after the event, even sweeping the festival place where we had our. I'm ready to work for the library at any function that's needed. Right now, I'm not so much at the events because we're very busy in the office, but I love to be out there and to feel that whole energy of what we're doing. It's so meaningful. So I've been a book, and I don't know. Would you want to know my topic?
Yes, of course.
Are you sure?
Yes, of course. That's why I asked.
Yeah, I thought so. Really, I tried being a book in the early years, but it wasn't a really good book because I was doing it because I wanted to know what it was like to be a book. But the second time, in the second period that I've published, I published in the topic of bereavement. And that was after a very personal experience where I lost my wife very suddenly to a heart disease. So I became a widower, and my topic was really, having lost. But in the stereo, to where can you challenge stigma? Well, I think death is a huge taboo, and especially when it happens in the middle of life, unexpected, and it's a shock to all of us, a huge shock. I mean, you get zeroed when this happens, and it took a very big toll on me and on my children and on our family and on all of our friends and her family. And it's been a very difficult time. It's now more than 8 years, so I'm in a better place, and time has been a great friend. But you know what was very difficult in the period right after? And I just mean right after. I mean years after, but it'll still seem like right after. Was being social, going out and being even with my friends and people who know me well and who knew her well and knew our family well, because everybody was in such a shock and it was such a difficult situation. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to help. And you are not in a position where you can explain a whole lot of things about how they can help and support you, because you're really low on your, you're zeroed. So it's like asking a man who's been hit by a car, what can you do to help him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This man cannot answer because he got hit by a car. So he's not going to be able to answer you. All you can hope is that you call an ambulance at some point when you wake up, you know? And so I discovered the stigma, the burden of this death, and how it put such a pressure on me socially that when I went out, I had to make the others comfortable that I was there because they knew
Yeah.
of my, of my loss. So it was difficult for them to be near me and have fun simply because they knew, wait a minute, there's nothing fun. But I need to have fun too, even
Yeah.
though we lost. So it was a very difficult situation. And I discovered this reverse social burden. And I thought, okay, let me try and be an open book and have some people ask me about, what's it like and what happened. And let me talk about it when I felt ready. And it was really good for me too. I mean, it was good for me also to talk about it. I often talk about what happened because that's like that. I'm already an open book myself. But to talk about it with strangers has been a really also a very life enhancing experience. And I remember one question one of my readers asked me. His name was Dan, and I met him in Washington at an event, and he really stayed with me because it hit me like like you get a hit in the stomach, but not in a bad way. He wasn't trying to hurt me, but it was like it sucked the air out of me. This question, and I'm like, wow, it just surprised me. And he said to me, "But Ronnie, when you knew your wife had a bad heart, why did you go to Spain on vacation?" And it's a good question, but she had a bad heart for 27 years. And at some point, even with a bad heart, people with a bad heart need a vacation too. So it wasn't really a choice of stop living life. It was a choice of getting help on time. We didn't get help on time because the doctors underestimated how bad the situation with the heart valve was. And then it collapsed before they could change the heart valve. So, and it's just misfortune for us, for her, for everyone here. Uh, but it taught me a lot, and it helped me be a great book, which I say is not in circulation anymore, at least not at the moment.
Thank you so much for all
Gata?
the experience you shared and your personal moments, because I think it makes the whole idea of lending and borrowing a book, a human book, more valuable when you share your own experiences and you let people in your experiences, not necessarily in your life, because it's 30 minutes. You talk with the person for 30 minutes, but
Mhm.
they learn more, they understand more, and they know more afterwards. So I think this is the huge gain of these meetings, these reading sessions. So congratulations for your project and for 21 years of going on and on. So I hope it will go on for 20 more. Thank you
I
one
hope
more
so too.
time, Ronnie, and I hope we'll meet someday, maybe in Bucharest or Copenhagen. It's a lovely city. I've been there once 17 years ago, so I have to go back. I have
Well,
to
and I
be
was
there.
in Bucharest in 17, and it was wonderful, and I look forward to coming back and seeing some of my friends there. And I
Yeah,
hope you all stay
of course.
safe. Thank you
Thank you.
for
Stay
this
safe and
opportunity. Yeah.
thank you.